everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Sippin on Country. I'm Amy, and I am here today with the lovely Hannah Dasher. Welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me, girl.
I am so excited to have you in the studio. Thank you for coming in. So for anyone listening who does not know your name, does not know who you are, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
I wear many hats, but I'm an entertainer. I'm a country music artist, and I write songs over at Sony. And since quarantine, I've become an influencer of sorts as well, too. Some call me a comedian. I'm just me. But yeah, I'm a lover of country music and rock and roll and an old soul.
I love it. And for anyone who has ever followed you on social media, they will see that instantly.
And a cook.
And
there's the TikTok thing too, so there's that.
Yes, there is. And you have really embraced social media. I know it's something that I speak a lot about, especially with independent artists on here, that just social media in general is really key to build your brand.
Yeah.
And get your music out there to fans. And you may be doing it the best of a lot of people. So
well, balling on a budget, I guess you could say. if I had the lucrative resources to really do it over the top, because I'm a little over the top, a little extra by birth. But yes, I think you have to utilize what's out there, and so social media, I have to use it to my advantage.
Is that something that has become a stronger influence, like, since COVID? I feel like there were a lot of pros and cons for the music industry during COVID, and I feel like one thing it really did was catapult the necessity for utilising social media.
Well, people were stuck in the house, and it was a blessing and a curse. A blessing for people like me who had a platform and a bigger audience, but a curse too, because I think we're all drawn to our phones now, and I feel like it's just taken more of the focus onto the numbers and a lot farther away from the art itself.
Yeah.
And like, songs can stream well, and there are great songs that don't stream well. I think it's a matter of who's got the resources to put it out there so that the public can see it. I can have the most beautiful Cartier diamond, but if I go bury it under a bush, you're never going to know that it's there.
Right.
Unless Oprah or Beyonce or Justin Timberlake or someone comes, or Morgan Wallen comes along and says, hey, this is the shit, you should check it out. Anyway, so artists like me who don't have those kinds of resources, can use social media to our advantage to be like, hey, here I am, check it out. And again, though, without a team, it's hard to strategize. And but I've taken some note lately, and I think there's some ways for me to start busting out more music and getting it to catch on too.
Nice. And I mean, one thing that's great is with the social media stuff, it has got your music out to, not just people in Nashville, but worldwide.
Who knew? Who knew I had fans like I do out in UK? Tom Petty broke over there first. I'm a big Tom Petty fan, but
there's a lot of people that broke in the UK before they made it here, interestingly, and that always blows my mind, because the size of the UK, and we have so much influence, and it's wild to me.
It is.
And you just got to go over there for
C2C. Yes, that was a bucket list thing for me, to do C2C. But I love how hungry Londoners, well, I just say the UK is in general for real music, and I don't think genres are a big thing over there. I think people just like what they like, listen intently to the lyrics, which I'm a big lyric person too. I mean, having influences like Alan Jackson, Eric Church, I mentioned Tom Petty, those are, song lyrics, and the songwriting is important to me, and it seems to be equally as important to you guys, so love that. And my first night there, I met a group of guys at a pub, and one of them
sounds like it's going to end badly.
No, it was fun. It was fun. Well, I mean, I walked in to the pub, and someone recognized me, and then wanted a picture, and then caught on. Anyway, and I had conversation with one of the guys in the group, and he works for the country charts in the UK, and I asked him, I said, what's the difference in UK country charts, like the way y'all do it, versus how we do things in the U.S.? And he said, the U.S. charts are bought and paid for. Anyway, and
it's really interesting. I mean, I work in like the back end of the industry now, so I kind of see a little more of that. But it's definitely something that I've delved into, and the way that the charts and even like radio, you know, I mean, it's
$1.5 million will buy you number one song or top five, right?
Yep, it is. It's kind of wild, you know, and it's. I mean, you say about the genres not being a huge thing, and I think that's true. I mean, over here, I am very aware that if I want to, if I want to listen to country, I'm putting the country station on. If I want to listen to rock, I'm putting the rock station on. Whereas I grew up with radio where they played everything.
I love
that. You know,
that.
like what do people want to hear? And it didn't matter if it was country or rock or hip hop or like it. Everything was in the same thing, and it was. I never really knew anything different until first coming to the States. With that being said, I kind of liked it because I was like, great, now I can just listen.
It's organized.
To country music.
Yeah, it's organized. I'm with you. Yeah, but it's so hard to. I mean, like. To me, Michael Jackson was more than a pop artist.
Yes.
And whether you're a fan or not, Garth Brooks is also a versatile act.
Yes.
You know, he could kind of go all over the place. I'm that way. I'm not just a country act. I mean, if you go to my live show, you're going to get, there's a lot of Southern rock and roll undertones that's there. I think it's hard to pigeonhole people into just one thing. Jack White's another good example. Yes. And so I think that model tends to work well. But I'm also glad to see how much the country realm is expanding. And, I think our streaming numbers are better than other genres, so they're kind of taking advantage of the market.
Yes, it has. And in the UK, I don't know if it still stands, but I know a few years ago, country was the fastest growing genre. And it's funny because I feel like I was waiting the entire time for it to get really big. And I mean, I moved here 5 years ago, so I was there for a lot of C2C.
Welcome.
But other than C2C, there really was not a huge amount going on. And then I move over here, and all of a sudden everyone's touring in the UK, and I'm like, why does it happen now once I've moved?
I can't wait to get back over there. I had the best time, and everyone was telling me about this honky tonk, the Dukes of Highgates and Highgate, northern part of London.
Oh, it must be though.
But they were like, it's kind of like Roberts, but and I was told that you're not going to find as many Hank Jr. fans or Charlie Daniels, fans over in the UK. They're going to be more into like the Dolly and the newer kind of country. Anyhow, but I walk into this bar, and the first thing I see is a big poster of Hank Williams Jr. on the wall, and Convoy, and Loretta Lynn and Patsy Cline and things like that. And then there's pictures of me on the wall behind the bar too. Like, but they've got good taste. George Jones and Dwight Yoakam, Travis Tritt. I was like, yes. Anyway, they shut the bar down and we drank for free. It was so much fun. But anyway, but I think people are just hungry for great music in general, and great music finds its way. And I'm a bit of a late bloomer, but I think my success at C2C is proof that great music does find its way to people with good taste.
See, that's one thing I will say that makes me kind of proud to be British in that way. Like when it comes to music, I think we're a lot more open than at least what I've noticed from the American market, and we're attentive.
Very attentive people.
I've spoken to people before, especially when I was in the UK and I'd be doing interviews during C2C, and they're like, I didn't know what to do because everyone was just like sitting really quietly and listening. And they were like, I didn't know if they liked it or if they didn't like it. But I feel like for the most part, everyone's very respectful of, like we hear people sing and then we clap and we cheer.
You're very polite.
We can get wild. We
I believe
we can do it.
You can drink us on the table too. Very polite, very attentive. I just noticed, not just like at the concert, but like if I was on the tube or if I was, I don't know, traveling somewhere or sipping, or at restaurants, like people weren't buried in their phones. People were just more present. And I think we've really, really lost the attention span, or I think you know what I'm trying to say. I just think like we're in this whole swipe mode of life. And, like as a creator, I have 5 seconds to capture your attention, or you swipe to the next video. 5 seconds.
Yep.
And that's barely enough to deliver a beautiful guitar riff or steel riff, let alone a line for a song.
Yeah.
And so it's created quite the challenge for songwriters. But I welcome the challenge because as an entertainer, I want to keep your attention. But again, I just really appreciate the warm welcome that I got and the success that we saw over there, and can't wait to get back. We're making strides to get back over there ASAP.
Nice. There's a lot going on. Was it your first time?
It was my first time. Yes, it was so much fun.
Amazing.
And the other fun part of the trip was Headley Grange. I mentioned I'm a rock and roll fan, and you might have we're going to bring that up anyway. But are you familiar with Headley Grange? Of course you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, which is kind of wild. But that's for those of you that don't know, it's where Zeppelin recorded Zeppelin 4, where half of that record was written. Bad Company, recorded Bad Company there, Genesis.
Rock and roll history.
Rock and roll history. A lot of rock and roll history there. It's a private residence. If you've seen it, Might Get Loud with Jack White, a great documentary. They feature Jimmy Page takes the audience back to, basically, or takes Jack White back to Headley Grange and talks about the recording process there. Anyway, it's a private residence, but I was able to meet the owner by an act of God, and they welcomed me with open arms to have a private tour there. And, of course, I bawled my eyes out when I walked in the door because, it's rock. That's where, like, the foyer where John Bonham cut the drums for When the Levee Breaks. Mm-hmm. What an innovative, time in rock and roll history and recording history. And,
like that whole era.
That's the stairway
music.
to heaven. That is the stairway.
All of that stuff paved so many roads.
Oh,
for what
my
we
God,
have now.
yes.
And it is, it's
best.
Royalty recorded.
Yes.
Would you say that was your highlight of being over in the UK?
For sure.
Easy?
Oh, for sure. It was just it's a lifelong bucket list thing of mine to do that. And another full circle, I've got a girl that works for Paul Rogers, Bad Company, who's just reached out last week to have me on some podcast thing that they do. And anyways, that's going to be a lot of fun. But I just, again, I just think talent should surround itself with talent regardless of genre, and I think it takes all kinds to make, melting pots like you and me, know.
I mean, and everything, you look back in history at music and genres, and I mean, country now is not what country was, and this genre is built up of so much. Rock and roll is built up of so much.
Yes, it is.
And people do tend to pigeonhole things a lot, and I'm like, it was just never the case. Like, if we always did that, we would never have some of the genres that we have now, which I think that's what makes music so, like, what's the word?
Free.
Yeah, free. That is exactly
Speaking
it.
of Paul Rogers, free. What is his first band?
Damn it, now I'm going to have that in my head.
All right now. Yeah. I love that. Well, yeah, but I welcome this new challenge and the freedom of being an independent artist. I'm really starting to embrace it and enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And I've always said I don't want to be an outlaw, but
you are.
If the circumstances present them, if the shoe fits, basically, if the boot fits. Anyways, I've actually recently written a song like that called by that title with a guy named Jake Mitchell, who's very talented. And anyway, and that's the title of my second headlining tour that I'm on this year. It's the I Don't Want to Be an Outlaw tour.
Awesome. And is that going to take you all across the US?
Yes. We're in North Carolina this weekend, and I was out with Blackberry Smoke the night before that. Love those guys. Anyway, and then to Oregon and Washington State. So I'll be in Oregon for the first time performing. I'm excited about that this year. Cool. A lot more dates in Texas.
You're back out there.
I'm out there not this weekend, but the following weekend, for Two Step In. We've got a sold-out show in Tulsa. Again, they like me for some reason over there in Tulsa, so thank y'all. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and hoping to get back to this area. I may have a show coming in the Nashville area in a month or so as well, too. But I guess I'll announce that Thursday.
I'll keep my eyes peeled.
Yes, girl.
So, do you have any favourite places that when you're booking these tours? Well, I guess you have a team that books the tours, or are you doing this all independently?
I have an agent.
Okay.
Yes, I have an agent and an agent assistant, and they are very dedicated to what I do, and they're great.
So, when you're out playing, favourite cities to play?
Well, I'd have to say states over cities because I'm still I'm still new on the road, if you will. The Cadillac 3 was instrumental in taking me out with them, and they were basically the first band that I went out with, other than I did an acoustic thing with the Steelwoods. But the first time I went out with the band was with Cadillac 3, and that was in 2017, 2018, and then. Was at William Morris, and then I had, we started playing a lot more acoustic dates, a handful of band dates in 2019, and then the country shut down for two and a half years or so.
I've just blocked it out of my memory.
Right.
Don't even.
Right. So I didn't tour for a couple of years there. So I still consider myself new, on the road. But my favorite places to play, Alabama. For some reason, I just think they're. You've got the Drive-By Truckers and Jason Isbell and things like that, and I just think that they're just really hungry for great music. I enjoy South Carolina. Washington State. I've got a following there. I really, really, really enjoy that. I'm loving on Texas. I haven't played in Texas a lot, but this year we will, so I'm eager to see what kind of love we get there. But
I feel like Texas would fit you perfectly. It
right.
feels like just slot right in.
It does feel like a good fit whenever I've been. I love LA.
I've actually never been.
It's a vibe. It's a whole vibe. I just think people. Obviously, I think London has probably been my favorite ever.
Obviously.
So there's that. So that would be number one. But yeah, I just think there's a lot of I come from Georgia, and I don't want to talk too much here, but I will say Georgians, we're very spoiled. I feel like, and we've had a lot of talent come out of there with, Alan Jackson, Travis Tritt, and then the whole wave of the bro scene, Luke Bryan and Cole Swindle and all the Georgia acts that have come and songwriters that have done so well, and Thomas Rhett and guys like that. And I feel like it's a very popular place for your commercial acts to tour. And I just think we take for granted that there's a live show happening all the time, all around us. And I just noticed that while I do well in Atlanta and Athens, I just noticed there's just more of a hunger and more of an appreciation, I feel like, for the acquired taste, if that makes sense, in other places.
So what do you think? You've got, obviously, where you're from, you say there's a lot of artists that come out, and then you have, I was talking to someone earlier about Arkansas, the fact there's obviously a lot of artists that come from there.
Who else from Arkansas?
Wait, don't put me on the spot, because now... Wait, is it Johnny Cash is from Arkansas?
Yes.
You got Johnny Cash, you got... I could... If we weren't in the middle of this, I could lift you off multiple. Now I've only got Johnny Cash, and that's all I've got for
I believe it. I'm sorry I've been sleeping on Arkansas.
We're going to... Yeah, there's a ton, and now...
Dan and Shay.
Are they?
Yeah.
There you go.
Arkansas.
Now, I'm thinking older artists. Now, we'll circle back round to it. I'll just list them on the screen.
That's quite all right. I love that.
But there's a decent amount, and then, did you grow up in kind of a more rural area? Do you think? Because that's something that I feel like I've always noticed, is that a lot of artists tend to come out of those places where there really wasn't much around. So, do you think it's a case of people grow up and one of the main things you're going to do is pick up a guitar and you're going to sing, and there's more of an emphasis on family time, especially in the South at least. And this is a foreigner saying this, so don't judge me. But
no judgment.
But there seems like just a big emphasis on family and creating those memories within there, which a lot of the time involves music. And so out of those more rural areas, I feel like you tend to get a lot of artists, and I feel like maybe because of that, does that sound...
I think I know what you're trying to say.
You're not saying it well.
Well, are you saying that the Bible Belt breeds, because it's a country way of life, we breed more country singers? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Just music in general. I feel like music is more of a heavy influence in people's lives in those ares.
It could,
more than
maybe so.
else.
I don't know. I didn't grow up in the city, so I can't speak for that as well. But I've also seen very talented people who are heavily influenced by music, from the city as well. Right. I don't know, like my steel guitar player is a savant. He is incredible, and his dad managed the Flying Burrito Brothers. Oh, wow. And he's from Long Island. And there's no country music stations in New York City or New York, but how in the world did one of the best steel guitar players come out of that? I just think, not to counteract what you're saying.
Oh, no, absolutely.
At all. But I think the way I grew up, really, I think what I listened to growing up and then having a good upbringing made me appreciate and love country music. I mean, how could you not love 90s country radio?
It's the best.
It was, yeah.
It is.
So growing up with that and growing up in America in the 90s was just a great time to be alive, I feel like. And I had a great childhood. And so I tend to just love that. And songs, I mentioned Alan and Travis Tritt, Mark Chestnut, whatever, Clint Black, Reba, love Reba. Mm-hmm. But all that takes you back. It takes me back to warm, happy places, and which is why I wanted to, and I fought for years to try to include like that 90s Bruce Boughton pedal steel, which you'll hear on my records, because I knew that was going to make its way around. I knew that it was going to come back and that it was going to be fresh and that what I did was fresh. What I was hearing in my head was fresh. It just took a lot of time and to convince a team to let me try to do that. But all that to say, you'll hear that in The Other Damn Half and in the other music that I'm, working on as well. It's just a matter of time.
That 90s country period was, I mean, I didn't even come into it until early 2000s, and even I'm like, nope, 90s was the best. There is something about that sound that is just nostalgic for a lot of people. And I feel like you're able to bring that, but also you've got a heavy influence from like real classic country, which is a breath of fresh air, honestly, because there's not a lot of people doing it. And I think it's hard in this day and age with the industry like it is, because to break away from, the cookie cutter thing that people, that the labels want. But also at some point, you've got to take your own direction. But what are some of your biggest influences kind of before 90s country, from like the classic?
Oh, before 90s. Well, my first cassette tape that I owned was Patsy Cline. Okay. And so my mother brought me that. And my grandparents, I went to see them on the weekends all the time. And they had the Grand Ole Opry. They played the Opry, and TNN network was still a thing then. I think the Statler Brothers show, like they were like Hee Haw reruns or something. I don't know. I was a little thing, but I glued to the TV every Saturday night for the Grand Ole Opry. But my grandparents would play Hank Williams Sr. and Jim Reeves and things like that, Marty Robbins, Merle Haggard, and I fell in love with that. And I just got along well with old people. I've always been an old soul, and and then I clung to that in college as I was just starting to explore songwriting. Dierks Bentley, I got into Dierks, but I really started listening to Waylon and Merle Haggard, and just developed just a real appreciation for what they do. And my philosophy was, I can't go into seminary if I don't know my Bible.
Yep.
So, how can I give the world, or try to attempt to give the world some art if I don't know where I'm coming from? And I just want to build a great foundation, and I think the bigger the foundation, firmer foundation, the more you can build upon it.
I totally agree. And I think clearly that has worked for you. You mentioned the Grand Ole Opry. I mean, you grew up watching that or listening to it. And fast forward to now, you've played the Opry. I mean,
10
what's
times.
That like?
Yeah.
10 times.
Oh, yeah.
To step into
not 100.
that circle.
I don't sound ungrateful. I know. I'm after them.
You're getting there. So
there.
90 more. We'll start taking
Right. I love the Opry. It's a magical place. The staff told me on my debut, and again, I think other times that I've played, they've been like, we feel like this place has been waiting on you. And, I just really, really, really appreciate the institution, and, and I love that they're being eclectic in their musical choices. I've seen the Alabama Shakes on the Opry stage and loved it. I think it's great to expose the world to all kinds of genres and their audience to all kinds of genres. But I do think we've got to remain selective and as far as, because it's a big deal to play that stage. And I think I played it a little sooner than I should have, honestly. But all that to say, I revere the institution. But country music is not just my only influence either. My growing up near the beach in Savannah, Georgia, Motown and beach music was a big part of like my parents' repertoire. So Aretha is a big influence of mine. And, I go to a black gospel Baptist church here in town because I just resonate with that music more and that style of worship. And when you come see me live, I'm me and my steel player, the only white people in my band, basically. I'm proud of that, though. There's so much talent that comes from that soul, gospel, jazzy background, and it's been the foundation for a lot of music like rock and roll.
Yeah, I mean, even like country, and it's always interesting to me that I feel like when most people think country music, it really is predominantly a white music. It is a white man's music.
Yeah.
And in reality, when you go back and you look at all the influences that come up, it's wild to me that there's not more black artists coming through, and I think there's others.
Well, think about it, like, country is that stiff beat, whereas, which is more white people, because my drummer picks at me all the time, he's like, white folks clap on the, like the 2 and the 4.
Okay, wait. So
and the black folks clap on the 1, 3.
Did you notice this in the UK? Because this is the one thing that people figure it out here, but in the UK, if you have to clap on the offbeat, it will last for about 5 seconds, and then everyone's on the straight beat. Everyone's back on the. So the people on the people on the stage, it will be like, right? They'll be clapping like this. The whole audience will start. The second they stop doing it, they'll just go. The whole audience just goes straight every time, and it cracks me up.
Well, that is funny. But to speak to, one being more inclusive of the other. I think country is traditionally I think there are more Caucasian people, because of that God-given rhythm or lack of. That beat, that train beat, that thing. Right. It's not as greasy and soulful as what you're going to hear on a James Brown record or Smokey or, like what they do. It's sexier. It's rough. It's edgy. It's the blues was like sexy. Rock and roll is about having sex. Anyway, the term rock and roll is sex.
Right.
Anyway, and so. I understand why Elvis was such a, faux pas, but I also understand why he worked, because he was the first white guy to really embrace that greasy, groovy soul thing, and boom, and it worked, and Justin Timberlake works for that reason, and if I could afford to have the mixes and the band that I want in the studio, that I felt like my music would perform better, but you're getting a live record from me. Because my live show, my live band, I think my records don't sound bad, but I prefer the way we do it live to what you hear on the recording. So I hope that
Well, they're two very different spaces. When you're in the studio, everything is very. Like this
by the click, by the da. Right? Sorry, your drummer you wanted that you would have paid a lot of money for can't make it today, so you got to have this guy who's talented but who is not your guy.
Right.
So again, but I think that kind of speaks to, country having predominantly more of a white people thing. It's not a racial thing. I just think it's just that's like if I was black, I wouldn't think the beat was I wouldn't think it was cool enough. A black man's gonna be cooler than a white guy. Just black guys have more swag, more soul generally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is why I'm drawn to them. Musically, does that make sense? Can I say that?
100%.
Yeah, I feel like but not to say there's not talented people on each side.
No, but I know what you mean. There's definitely when you hear that Motown and that soul, and there's something more to that music that you can't get from
Yes, but Ray Charles, recording the Modern Sounds of Country Music album in like 1963. I think it won a Grammy, right? And he had to go, and then he had to put out a volume 2 because it was so good. That's where my hopes lay when I heard Beyonce was cutting a record. I was so, if we can go there for a second.
We can totally go there.
I was so excited to hear that she was going to put out an album, and I thought, wow, think about the empire that she's built. Mm-hmm. She's a queen. Like, I mad respect for her talent.
Yeah.
And I just thought, wow, you know, she's going to come to town and she's going to write a song with Nashville songwriters. She's going to think about how many people that's going to employ, how many lives and families that's going to change, you know, to get a shot at that. Because I think they even pitched her one of my songs. I'm the one that taught him that thing you like. Anyway, but, and then it comes out and, you know, whatever.
She did. I actually, obviously that album has been a conversation starter.
Right, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's what I gave it a listen. Or I listened to, you know, Texas Hold'em because people just, my fans on TikTok are like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? I'm like, guess I got to check this out. So I go listen and all, and I hear something about a hoedown, and I immediately cringe. I'm like, what?
Oh yeah.
And I pray the Illuminati didn't come after me because I'm just being honest. I mean nothing but love for this queen, anyhow. But she's not calling me to go on tour with her, or you know, Kimberly or anybody else. But I just, it's one thing to manufacture a product and put it out and take advantage of a market, but that doesn't make me feel respected, and that doesn't make me want to welcome something with open arms when I feel like I'm being taken advantage of as a genre. Fair. You know, I would much rather someone like Ray Charles paid homage to the institution. You know, can you imagine hearing Beyonce sing a Tammy Wynette song? She would knock it out of the park.
She would.
I mean, you know, like, yes, she cut a Jolene. Of course, she cut a Willie. I mean, fuck that. That's an easy grab.
Right.
You know, like, really give us, you know, something that's Grammy worthy.
Yeah. And she could do it. She
could afford the time to do that.
I guess for her, there's that hard line between not releasing it, and not that I think this is even a factor that would matter, but maybe releasing the album that's not going to entirely alienate her current fan base. But I was kind of hoping after Texas Hold'em came out, I was like, lyrically, we won't go there, right? But that song has a beat and it is catchy.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But but Beyonce, like she makes the rules now, so she could easily have done anything on that record.
100%.
Yeah, it's a Beyonce record. It's not a country record. Yeah. But I got to hand it to the team, the marketing team, and the press and all. I mean, it's, you know, they've done a great job with all that. But I really wanted to see some more time put into this album from her.
Yeah,
and
I was really hoping for
craft.
Because I said to people that were like, "Oh, it's going to be awful," and I'm like, you know what? Let's just wait for it to come out. I was like, in my mind, I was like, I feel like this is going to be like she's going to prove everyone wrong that has already been skeptical about her releasing, and it maybe didn't necessarily do the job. I think it's still a good album. I think it's. I need to
dive in and
there's
finish
a lot
listening
of songs that Cam has written on.
Yep.
Which I remember.
Good for her.
It came out, and the first track, which American Requiem, I think it is, and within the first 10 seconds, I'm like, Cam has to have written this. I'm like, there's just no way that she wasn't a part. But at that time, they didn't have, not everything had been populated, so I couldn't find the writers. And I think I went back a couple of days later, and there it was. And I was like, all makes sense.
Yeah, I love it. So, I think there's a balance that she could have found that it would have appeased country fans and her fans.
I agree.
You know, and new country fans.
Maybe one day. The one thing, now I'm going to say it, I think it's a shame that she got the number one with Texas Hold'em, only because it's not a country track, and to get the Billboard country, like to be the first black woman to get that, I feel like it's almost taken that accolade away from someone who, you know, someone who is going to work their way up, releasing, you know, a genuine country track that's now unattainable.
Yeah.
And I think that sucks a little bit. It's taken that away from someone. But also, again, it's Beyonce, right? I don't want to...
She's gifted, but I mean, so is Reba McEntire.
Yeah. I'm not sure that should have necessarily been in the country charts, but here we are. With that being said, let's talk a little bit about your music. So what have you got out right now? What are we kind of...
The other damn half.
Okay.
Yeah. I got tired of waiting to release music, and again, there's been no strategy, a digital strategy as far as like when I released the half record. When I was at the label, I think we had 500,000 listeners a month, and which now I think that's awesome as a brand new artist to have 500,000 listeners a month on Spotify. At the time, I was told that wasn't good enough, but who knew? But I think that's great. I think Zach Top's at that right now. He's killing it. But I had no idea that in order to keep that number there, I would have to continue to release music. And so when I figured that out, there was no money in the recording budget. It's so expensive. I don't think consumers realize.
Right. You're not just going, I'm just going to go into the studio and record a song. Like, if only it were that easy.
Yeah.
You need your players, the studio time, the engineer.
It's a couple grand a piece here or there, and then a few grand a song for the mixes, and then, was it $500 an hour for an engineer? Anyways, but it all adds up. Then when you go to one, when you have the product, finally, then there's a lot more that goes into the press and the marketing and the packaging and the distribution of all that.
On top of getting about 0.02 of a cent for every time someone streams it. You're not making your money back.
No, not at all. So it's really, really hard to do this without. And I hate to, blame it on money, but I just,
But I mean,
I've been trying to do this without an investor the whole time, and that's really all I've lacked. It's the number one question I get asked in meet and greet after my shows is, why aren't you on the radio? Why aren't you female vocalist of the year? Why aren't you da 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 da? And it's, it's anytime I get a little bit of momentum, it requires a lot more gasoline to pour on that fire. Gasoline being that, to build upon that. So all that to say, I think great talent finds its way, and I've got, some great things in the works now that I believe are going to bring in the assets necessary for me to really do this the way that I've wanted to. And but either way, I think a great song stands alone on its own.
Yeah, 100%.
Like Ugly Houses is.
I love that song.
We cut a band version of that. Ilya wanted to do that, but I told him in the beginning, I said, I really think this is just a stripped down, acoustic vocal with some pedal steel, and that's basically what we wound up with, and what he fell in love with too, because I think great songs just stand on their own. So, but it's a good variety. I mean, people are getting a taste of my Jesus, and they're getting a taste of my I'm gonna whip your redneck ass side, that I was told I couldn't release when I was at the label. But again, I wanted to put music out that was fan driven, because when I test these songs out live, if I wanted to put the songs on the record that you were singing back to me, and so I know if I'm delivering a song to you for the first time and you're already the second time the chorus comes around, you're singing it back, I know I got something.
Yeah.
So Crying All the Way to the Bank and Redneck Ass and That Thing You Like, songs that made it onto this record, and so I'm very excited to deliver a live album to you guys. I don't have a release date for that yet.
Are you?
But you're the first
are you going to be?
There'll be some new songs on it too.
Are you going to be recording on the road on this tour?
Yes.
Perfect. I think you get. I love a live album. Like you get a little bit more, right? Because you're playing off the audience, and I always think it just makes a performance better. Like doesn't matter how good someone is, you will never perform the same in an empty room as you will when you are in front of a crowd.
Oh, the energy. The energy's great.
And you feel that. You feel that in the record.
Yes. I think you'll have to feel that, and plus, I just want people to hear these songs the way I want them to be played as well, if that makes sense. Yep. So there's a lot more freedom and flexibility there. But always working on new music, and working on adding to the team as well. I've done this as independently as I feel like as long as I can. I've kind of taken it as far as I can. Now it's time for me to kind of to build my team a little bigger, to include some people that can do more for me than I can do for me.
Right.
Easier said than done, but I've working on the cookbook thing now. Finally, that's finally got a big deal there. I'm excited about, and TV is also in my cards. I'm working on a show now as well too, and I just think that any medium, you can use to get your music out there to people.
100%.
Why not?
I think
radio is not the only way.
It's not, and honestly, especially here because of the way that radio here is incredibly driven by record labels. So if you're not part of that, then the chances of you being able to get that play to a point where it's going to make a huge difference is slim anyway. So I mean, I think now it's important to be looking at all the other avenues you've got. The cooking thing, let's talk a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's become a big part of your brand.
Yes. Well, Loretta Lynn cooked. Hell, she had a Crisco sponsorship endorsement. And Patsy Cline. And I just, again, like my music, like my decor and my wardrobe, I'm just an old soul. And I've always felt the need to hang on to, not say dying art, but handwritten thank you cards, women that could cook, like a Sunday meal. I'm an old soul, pedal steel guitar. To me, all that's the same, one and the same. Mm-hmm. To me, it is. It's just who I am. And I just think certain things need to be carried forward. And some things don't hurt to stick around, like those little white Tupperware plastic salt and pepper shakers that you saw at your grandmother's house, or those avocado green canisters for the sugar and the flour and whatnot. So my kitchen in my home, I have decorated to pay homage to my grandmothers and my great aunts and the women that taught me how to cook. And I don't know what my grandma's kitchen looked like in the 70s, but that's kind of how I imagined it.
Right.
And who knew that other people, millions of people, would resonate with that too, and just kind of bring you home.
But you deliver it so well,
because it's really my kitchen. It's really me, I think.
And you can tell, you clearly love doing it, and I think that's why, from a social media standpoint as well, you've done so well. You're fun to watch. No one's scrolling onto your TikTok and like, ugh, yeah, no, I don't want to watch this. No, I'm done. You're engaging with people, and it makes all the difference in the world. You can create content all day long, but if you cannot pull people in, like you say, those first 5 seconds, right? People are going to scroll through.
They are. Well, as a songwriter, we got to do that too. But TikTok has been great. The cooking thing has been great for bringing non-country fans to Hannah Dasher shows.
Yeah.
And just for giving me an audience when I didn't have any other platform. And so that's why I'm able to do a headline on tour, because of my TikTok and social media. So I'm really grateful for that. And and people come as fans of the Cook It Show. And leave fans of the music, and vice versa too. I had a girl at a meet and greet this weekend cry. She said she was drinking, but she said, you remind me a lot of that girl from TikTok that cooks. She was a fan of my music, and I don't know how she didn't know. Anyways, and I told her, I'm like, you mean Stand By Your Pan? And she's like, it was like she finally clicked, and she started crying. And I'm like, shut up! And she goes, that's just like my third concert. I don't know why I didn't. So I'm going to start singing Stand By Your Pan on the microphone. Or I told my girlfriend, I said, I'm going to start throwing biscuits off stage instead of T-shirts. And I just need to get a biscuit gun.
I was going to get a biscuit gun.
Shoot biscuits. They'd be a lot cheaper than shooting T-shirts off stage.
Just do it. And then people will be full. They'll be happier at you.
Bless it. But you know what? Again, my journey looks nothing like I thought it would. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm so grateful to have a platform to leave people in a better place, and that I'm not pigeonholed to have to conform to.
That's one of the nice things about being independent, is that you have a lot more freedom to do that. But I also think that is the beauty of the music industry. There is no right or wrong way to pave your way to where you want to be. And
look at Tyler Childers, look at Sturgill, look at Blackberry Smoke. They've got the #1 album in the world, I believe, right now, right? And they're still at #1 on iTunes.
I'm not sure. That's wild.
Yeah, that new record is killing it. Get it if you haven't. But those guys, they did the country thing. They've always been rock and roll, but they got the deal, and did this. The Zac Brown, was it Southern Ground, and
yeah.
And had Pretty Little Lie, had that single out, and and it didn't do well at radio, not because it wasn't a kick-ass song, but again, it was like in 2014, and everyone was more excited about FGL.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was a weird time.
It's just not their audience, I just think they are building an empire. They're huge in London.
I was going to say, so my dad,
they're like Aerosmith over there.
We have satellite radio. No, it's not satellite radio. Whatever it is.
XM.
Satellite. No, it's whatever it is in the UK. But my dad listens to a station called Planet Rock, and most Cadillac 3.
Yes.
Blackberry Smoke.
Yes.
Like all these bands that I was like, I already knew. And he's like, oh, have you ever heard of these guys? They were and Planet Rock, I mean, they're playing like heavy metal stuff as well. I mean, they're rock. But Blackberry Smoke and all, they've all fallen into that genre. I mean, country or southern rock, not even mentioned. It's just rock. But it's worked really well for marketing them over there, and they've done great. I think they tour over there.
Yes, they do. They're going back in September. I've got some under contract to do like Bristol Rhythm and Roots and things like that. Or I'd be trailing along, going with them. But I'm tickled to get to do a couple dates with them this year on their Be Right Here tour. And again, I just revere those guys. Charlie Starr is just, I mean, to go and see a band live, like the country acts that, country fans are going to go see, except for me, are going to be playing like loops and tracks in the background. Mm-hmm. A lot of them have like a bass track that's got pre-recorded harmony vocals and pre-recorded instrument parts, and so the stuff what you're hearing in the speakers is not exactly what's going on stage. And good for them. It can sound great,
right,
if you don't know any better. It sounds kick ass.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but I just appreciate real, genuine musicianship, and so to show up to a show like a Blackberry Smoke show and hear a band of solid talent play, mm-hmm, and it sound just like the record, like that is a feat. Yeah. That's what it was like in 1977 or 75 going to see Leonard Skinner play. Yeah. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or even the Allman Brothers. Like, it was just craft.
That's something that maybe is like a little bit of a shame from a consumer standpoint, that for people in music, like, and you hear it, and we know there's tracks on the background of stuff that aren't actually being played, that people don't, they're not even paying attention to. But sometimes that raw talent, when people are going out there and it is just like everything that is on stage is all them,
yes,
and it is authentic, is not necessarily appreciated by some consumers.
No, it's not.
And not because that, it's nothing against anyone listening. It's just that people don't realise, because you don't necessarily look into it. Most people just want to hear the song, and they're not standing there. I go to a show.
I call them top 40 fans.
Right? But, like, I go to a show, and I'm like, oh, that, like, I'll be watching all of the people playing, whereas a lot of people will just go and they just enjoy that final finished sound that they're getting from the stage. They're not going to be like, oh, did you see, like, when the drummer did that? No one cares, and not because they're trying to not care, but just because it's not something that a lot of people think of unless you're already in the music kind of world. People just enjoy it for what it is. But those bands are phenomenal. I actually saw was it 1,000 Horses?
Yeah.
In the UK, they went and they filmed, I think it was like a 4 or 5 song EP straight to tape, and then they invited some media along, and I was just like, that right there, because how many bands right now could you take into a studio and go one take all the way I mean, tape ain't cheap, so if you're
analog is very expensive,
if you're recording onto there, I mean, you have to be like, you have to hit the nail on the head every single time, and that was awesome to see.
They're good guys. They're sweet guys. Sweet.
So you write your own stuff.
Yes.
What is your writing process like, that creative process, going in with an idea, with co-writers and...
It is, well, great ideas are so hard to come by. Mm-hmm. And so unless I've got a no-brainer idea that I'm sitting on, I rely on my co-writers a lot of times for that. When Varble is the one that I'm the one that taught him that thing you like. And I was like, he called me. He was like, he told, said to her over the phone. And I was like, shit, yeah, we're going to write that one. Let's do it next week now. Anyway, so I always appreciate it. But a lot of times we go in the room, without anything to go on. We just hem and haw, as I say, talk, and just let the good vibey creative energy flow, and then usually something great falls out of heaven and conversation. I mean, if you sit and talk to me long enough, you wouldn't know it for this. Listen to me ramble in this interview, but there's a lot of one-liners that come out. Just the art of the Southern language, I think, just happens naturally.
Yeah.
But you just hold your guitar in the right place, basically, and you catch it as it's coming out of the sky, and God usually sends it from the left side of heaven, about right there, and it falls, and boom, and you've got a great song.
There it is. I love it.
And you labor over it for 4 hours or 5 hours, or sometimes a couple of weeks, or ever how long it takes to get that product there to you, and not product, but that work of art.
I mean, art, but is also
Being fresh in love always helps. Being fresh out of it always helps my creative process too, because it's the emotions are wild and all. And then I've been single, I guess, for not quite almost a year yet, not quite a full year, but but I'm getting back and enjoying my singlehood now. So you really have to reach as a creator, as a writer.
Right, when you're just kind of in that like no man's land of like everything's just content, and then you can't write about being content. That's not there's nothing in it.
Yeah, where is it? Right. Well, so I mean, I try to change things up. Like I went to Headley Grange, to recharge my batteries. Being around like Charlie Starr and Pauly and those guys in Blackberry Smoke, that's inspiring in itself too. And just listening to great music. The Red Clay Strays are so gifted as well. I listen to pull inspiration. I listen outside of this genre, honestly, to pull from just fresh places.
I think it's important to bring in that eclectic mix. Actually, I remember this was years ago. I actually went out for drinks with Travis Meadows. What a guy.
Wow.
What a lovely guy.
What a story. Y'all, please check him out.
Incredible. And I don't even know how it came about, and I'm sitting there just listening to him talk. How did you get I don't even know. But I remember one thing that he said was that you can't write if you don't read. So he said he reads constantly. Like books about just everything. He's constantly pulling in knowledge and like those stories. He's like, because if you don't have that, you can't write. And
makes
I
a
was
great
like,
point.
that's
Do audiobooks count?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, well, it's still content,
I'm gonna start
right?
when we get in the car, right? Podcast stuff. I feel like I'm so much in editing and video content land that it's it's hard to.
It takes up a lot of time.
Yeah,
I don't think people realise sometimes, that 1 minute reel that you post on.
Oh yeah, it take days to make those things.
It's a whole. I mean, it's a whole other job. It's a whole other job. There's so much pressure now on independent artists to just be everything. I mean, like, it's great that you've got...
signed artists. Hell, when I set up the label, I sat on the shelf for 4 years, and it was just like, okay, we signed you just in case something happens here. Go pop off on your own, literally, and so that's one reason I fired my TikTok up, because I was like, okay, let me catch their attention. I'm there. I've got a major deal, but let me, maybe this will catch their attention, kind of a thing.
Right. Yeah. So. I think, and I don't know if it's got worse since COVID, but I feel like with all of these other mediums and platforms for artists to get stuff out on, it almost feels like the record labels have just got a little lazy about it, because they're starting to realise, actually we don't have to put the money into doing this, because, well, they can do it. Like, this person's got, 500,000 followers, and we didn't do anything. They just did it on themselves. So why do we need to necessarily go and put all that effort into the next artist? Because they just proved it can be done. Which is, I don't know.
That's true. I know, but my heroes, like, I wouldn't see a Waylon Jennings or an Eric Church putting a song out on a video saying, like, well, what do y'all think about this one? Should I record it? Fuck no. I'm going to put out the music I want to put out.
Yep.
You know, and pray that it sees a light of day. And I know you got to kind of work with what's working for you, if you will. But I'm not that kind of artist either. I'm not going to ask permission. Again, I'm just going to come see me live, and I'm going to test that song out. And if I think you love it.
Someone said to me once,
I'm going to cut it.
Do it and then apologize. Right? That's it.
It's written right here on my forehead.
Just go. So you've got the live album from this upcoming tour. You have your single. I'm going to link to all of your music as well and make sure that everyone can go find it.
Yes.
Live album, tour coming up. We'll put the tour dates up as well so people can go catch you if they are all over the US. We'll find out about that Nashville thing. So I'm going to come along.
Yes.
What else is going on for Hannah Dasher in 2024?
Well, I'm going to I'm starting to film, and I'm working on a cookbook. That's all I can really say.
And then until then.
Yeah.
I love that you're doing the cookbook. I think that's going to be a very popular. I mean, like you say, people come to you just through the cooking stuff on TikTok, which is awesome.
Yes.
I love that.
Well, it'll be a very country music infused thing.
Collard greens, fried chicken.
Yeah, I guess I need to put collard greens in there too. But yes, there will be fried. Yeah, things like that.
Because apparently that's all that my British brain could think of
I
off the top of my head.
I love it. Yeah,
I'll
teach you how to cook your ham hocks just right, so you can season your vegetables well.
I just need Crisco, right? That's
right.
it.
Yeah, actually, I use lard. Crisco hadn't paid me to. Isn't endorsed me yet, so I'm just going to use good old hog lard from the Mexican market. It's great.
We'll work on that.
And Dukes.
Quick, we need that endorsement. We need
Dukes
the endorsement.
and Fender. Well, we already got Fender. Thank you, Fender. But yeah, I'm excited.
So real quick, I did just want to circle back to C2C, because clearly that's where my heart lies. That's where my a lot of my country
I left part of my heart there
before.
too in London, to be honest.
It's just a little part, and it's only at C2C in that weekend in March. Other than that, I'm good here. But you had the largest audience outside of the main arena for that weekend. I mean, that must be a pretty good feeling.
Yes, I wasn't expecting that, but I was blown away, and again, I'm just rearing to go to get back over there and to try to get out of that little contract that says I can't come back for a year. I'm hoping they'll let me come back in like 6 months. So, but yeah, I've already gotten some offers come in.
Do it, then apologize.
Do it, then apologize. Right. Well, but I want to come back to C2C too. I don't want to piss off the C2C people. But yeah, do it, then apologize. I love that. But yes, thanks again to your fellow countrymen and for having me. And yeah, I can't wait to bring them music. And y'all break me like you broke Petty, and then we'll come back to over here to America and say, I told you so.
There you go. Right, UK, go buy her music. US, go buy the music. You can stream all day long, right? But that's not where the money is.
Come see us live.
Buy merch, tickets, merch, actual physical copies of music. Because we need to get you back over there, and I guarantee you'll have an incredible fan base after being over there once. If there's one thing that UK country fans are, it is loyal to a T. So you will have places to play. I can guarantee that. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
for
Amy.
coming in. Guys, we are going to be back next week with a brand new episode. Until then, Hannah Dasher, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I like that you said Hannah Dasher.
Hannah Dasher. Should I just keep saying that until the end of this recording? Recorded at 2300 Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Original theme music by Gary Wood.